Brandon Crawford just finished his career as a defensive end at Ball State. While most players entering the draft are 22 or 23 years old, Brandon is 10 years older, but I'm sure, as he'd like to point out, 10 years wiser. His journey to this point includes stops at an auto factory. That was out of high school. Then he was off to the Marines, and then finally, in his late 20s, off to Ball State. Not exactly the typical route to the NFL, but an interesting journey indeed, and we're happy to welcome Brandon back to ESPN First Take. He was with us a few years ago. Brandon, take us back to when you were 18 years old. You're coming out of high school, when at the time most guys that want to continue playing go right to college. How did it work out that you ended up in a factory and not the classroom?
Well, I was a part of a 21st century scholarship program here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and that scholarship program, a part of the stipulations is that you have to maintain at least a C average and you can't get any trouble with the law. Well, I ran into a little trouble when I was younger, right before I turned 18 with the law. I was trying to go to a after party, we say, at the Pizza Hut after one of our football games on a Friday night, and I got in the car with some guys from around my hometown, didn't really know them that well, and the car ended up being stolen. Those guys were in. Long story short, ended up, getting pulled over by the police and got put on probation for it. And that stopped the 21st century scholarship that I had going for me at the time. So the route that I took ended up, being me going and working in a factory with my brother for a while. And I did that, and it didn't work out for me. Found myself on the assembly line working, and started getting nosebleeds working by the paint booth. And one day I went to the break room and told my brother that I wouldn't be able to do this anymore. Didn't want it to be any bad bearing on him, and he had helped me get the job, but he told me he loved me, and whatever my decision was from there, he would support me. So I left from there and went to the Marine Corps recruiter.
Once in the Marines, had you pretty much let go your dream of playing football at the collegiate level?
No, I didn't, Jay. I always had it in my mind. I've been a competitive kid since I was little. I've always been active, always played sports. So it was something in the back of my mind. I told myself if I ever had the opportunity, I would get back out there and see what happens. And that's what I did.
So how did you end up on the Ball State football team? Because I'm imagining there was a stretch of more than a few years where you didn't wear a football helmet.
Correct. I came back home in 2003. Was just taking a year off. In 2004, just getting accustomed back to civilian life. And then in 2005, I ended up coming back home to Fort Wayne to help my mom get resituated. Because in 2004 is when I first initially talked to Coach Hoke at Ball State about walking on, and they thought I was going to come out, that next following year in 2005. But my mom and sister fell on hard times and back home in Fort Wayne, and they didn't want me to come back, but I did. I wanted to help them move and get situated. I didn't want to be down there in school and worrying about my family, so I came back to help them out. And in 2006, I came back and talked to the coaching staff again, and they was wondering where I'd been. Coach Hoke, Coach Phil Burnett, and Stan Parrish, they brought me in and gave me a chance to work out. They said, we're just not going to promise you anything. We'll see, how you work out and see what happens. I worked out, and they called me about a week later and said they would bring me in and just see. Thought I had some tools that I could use and help the team out. And they said they're going to work with me and see how it goes.
Brandon, what is the best thing about your journey?
I learned a lot along the way. I matured. I grew up, and I started thinking before I acted. When I was younger, I used to act before I thought about the things that I was doing. And it helped me to focus on life and take things into perspective and be able to see that it's not about you. About everything you do, you can't be selfish. You have to be able to give back, and help others.
What's the worst thing about your path so far?
I think when I got in trouble, that really, felt heavy on my heart because my family didn't raise me that way, and it wasn't, the way I was brought up. So I think that's the worst thing that comes to my mind, because I can remember when I got arrested, when they walked me back to the car, where we came from. It was right behind my grandmother and grandfather's house. And I can remember my grandmother and grandfather coming out to the fence, and they was like, who is this? They was, any neighbor would be, they were looking. And I looked at my grandfather's face, my grandmother's face, and that was just like the worst feeling you could have. Knowing that your family didn't raise you to get in any trouble like that. And I wasn't looking for any trouble. It was just a situation I found myself in for making bad decisions. I would say that would be it.
I imagine that was a moment you thought back on many times over the next 14 years. Now,
yes.
Where you are, Brandon, this is interesting because you're actually thinking and hoping to start your NFL career at an age where many guys are already finished playing in the National Football League at 33 years old. So what would you say to all prospective general managers who love your skill set but not sure they can take a risk on someone that's 33?
Well, I would say to them, take a chance on me, because my body hasn't taken the wear and tear. I mean, I've only been playing 4 years. Or the guys at my age, you know, that you said are retiring, that you referred to, are been playing 10 to 11 years. Like I said, my body's in good shape. I have a lot of experience just from being in a military background, a lot of maturity, someone that's dependable, you know, someone that can communicate well, you can trust, and someone that's dedicated, plays with a lot of toughness and effort, and plays with a lot of heart.
What are you hearing, Brandon, about your draft prospects?
I've been talking to my agent here recently, Mike Wozniak, out of Grand Rapids through Empower Sports, and he's been saying he's been talking to some teams. I told him I didn't want to know what teams. He said, but he has been talking to them. I told him just let me know when that time comes, you know, when I get that call. So he said he has been talking to a lot of teams, and they have been, you know, speaking good. So I'm just taking it one day at a time.